Whatever platform you are on, whether it is Twitter, whether it is Facebook, whether it is YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, general ages, welcome to another episode of Championship Rings. Brandon Lewis, Josh Ungar here with you, and Josh, the Super Bowl is indeed set.
And it's the matchup I don't think anybody wanted. Yay.
Well, we're going to get right into it. As always, right on Championship Rings, make sure to subscribe to us. Make sure to follow our other social media platforms. We are on Twitter at Rings Champion. We are on Instagram, Rings Champion. Facebook at Rings Champion 216. And we are live Facebook, Twitter, YouTube every Tuesday night. We're going to start things off with the AFC Championship game because for the fourth time in 5 years, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are headed back to the big game. They will represent the AFC, and I would argue that this game was over when the Baltimore Ravens went 3-and-out on their first drive, and the Chiefs responded right back with the incredible back shoulder throw over Mahomes to Travis Kelce in the end zone to make it a 7-0 game.
That should have been offensive pass interference on
No,
Travis
it should
Kelce.
not have been offensive pass interference. I completely disagree. It's the playoffs. You're going to let the guys play. It was not an intentional push-off, and I completely disagree with that take.
It was a deliberate push-off.
No, it was not. I completely disagree with that take. Are we starting this already? Everybody's so upset because the Chiefs just outplayed the Ravens. There was no bad officiating in that game. There was no bad pass interference calls late. It's the postseason. There's going to be contact. And the bottom line is the Chiefs outplayed the Ravens and Lamar Jackson played the worst game of the season. That's what I saw. The Chiefs were the better team. They deserve to win the game. And I told everybody, including you last week, that if you give the Chiefs 3.5 points, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
And just looking ahead to the Super Bowl for a minute, San Francisco is favored last I saw.
Yes, they are favored by 1.5. And for the record, I already have the Chiefs plus 1.5. We'll dive into it next week. But I'm telling you right now, I am not making the same mistake again.
God, I hate Patrick Mahomes. I really do.
See, but you're letting your bias get into, I believe, I'm already hearing it in your voice that you are letting your bias take away from the analysis of what you saw in this game. The Baltimore Ravens did not come ready to play. They did not run the ball. They did not run their entire offense all season long. And the greatness of Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce took over this game because it's what champions do. And Baltimore, we both said it. They felt like the team of destiny, right? They were the best team easily in the regular season. But they were not able to finish the job.
Playoff Lamar showed up at the worst time. I don't know what he was thinking throwing that pass into, I think it was triple coverage. That was stupid. Zay Flowers. Let me just talk about him for a minute. You get the huge pass from Lamar. Why are you taunting? There was no need for that. That cost the Ravens points. And this touchback rule.
Again,
it is stupid.
Why? How? He knocked it out of the end zone and the Chiefs recovered it in the end zone. What are you talking about? Where do you want to put the ball, Josh? Tell me.
Put it back at the 5-yard line.
So wait, the Chiefs recover the ball. You want them to get the ball because they recover the ball in the end zone. You want them to get the ball on their own 5-yard line.
What?
How would that make any sense? Do you want to tell me? You won't even tell me, will you? Because you don't have an answer.
Okay, why should I get it. The Chiefs need to get rewarded, but why is it always at the freaking 20-yard line?
Because by rule, it's the same thing as a punt. When you punt the ball and it goes out of the back of the end zone, the ball goes at the 20-yard line. If the ball goes into the end zone, it's at the 20-yard line. That's why.
Okay, in this case, I'm okay with the touchback rule, but in the situations where the defense is not able to recover it, no, the defense should not get the ball. No.
Offense fumbled the ball out of the back of the end zone. It's out of the field of play. It's not because the end zone, when you fumble it out of the back of the end zone, that is the end line of the end of play. It's not like you fumble it out of bounds, even though it's still technically in the field of play. That is the difference in the rule, and the defense gets rewarded because the offense should not get rewarded for fumbling a ball out of the end zone, and you should not put it back at the 1 yard line. I think it's the stupidest rule in all football.
It already is stupid the way it is.
It's not because you reward. Why are we talking about this in the middle of what we should be talking about, which is the AFC Championship game, which is the fact that Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens? That's the biggest storyline. We have 7 months to debate the touchback rule. We should be talking about this game right here, right now. And again, the Chiefs, they didn't even score in the second half of game. They did not score. And Zay Flowers' fumble at the goal line cost the Ravens points. And yes, probably did cost them the game. But the bottom line is, for most of the game, Lamar Jackson played like crap, was making bad decisions. The Chiefs controlled the game. They set the tone early, and they were rewarded, and they should have won the game.
What I don't understand is the Chiefs were playing, I think, like 6 defensive backs. Why did the Ravens not commit to the run game?
Yeah, I don't understand. Gus Edwards only had 1 carry in the first half, which went for 15 yards, and they just never went back to it.
It was so stupid. Like, John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, you built your offense on running the football, not passing it. I get it. Lamar improved as a passer this year, and he had very good and great weapons, the likes of Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Nelson Aguilar, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr. But you can't just abandon the run game. That's why you steamrolled opponents this season.
The Ravens dominated teams like the Niners, the Seahawks, the Lions. It took them apart. Miami, Jacksonville. I mean, they were dominant all season long, but they ran into the champs. They ran into the dynasty in the NFL, the new dynasty, I should say, right after the New England Patriots. This always happens in all sports. When one dynasty leaves, a new dynasty enters. The New England dynasty died when Brady left. The Kansas City dynasty was born. And here we are, the Chiefs now with an opportunity for the first time since the 2004 New England Patriots to go back to back.
I'm not 100% ready to call it a dynasty yet. If they win the Super Bowl this year, I'm fine with it being called a dynasty. I'm not quite there yet, though.
I mean, I guess it's fair, even though they've already won 2 Super Bowls in a 5-year period. They made 6 straight AFC Championship games. I think that counts as a dynasty to me. I mean, they're 3 out of 4 in those Super Bowls. Obviously, the one loss coming to Tampa. If they only had 1, I get it. But Patrick Mahomes has only lost 3 playoff games in his life, and 2 of them are to Tom Brady, and the other one was to Joe Burrow.
Which, let's talk about that part of the equation for a minute. Everybody's talking about Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You could throw Justin Herbert into that discussion, I guess. Tua, and no. It is just Mahomes, and everybody else is down here. I don't care who you put in that everybody else discussion. Whether it's Josh Allen. I don't need to go through all the quarterbacks I just listed again, but you get my point.
Yeah, I personally think next year, depending on if he stays healthy, I think Burrow could make a case to be in that Mahomes category. I think that the Bengals this year would have been really good if Joe Burrow wouldn't have gotten hurt. I still think they would have made a run. I think Burrow and the Bengals are going to be pretty good next year. We'll see how the loss of T. Higgins, who we assume will be leaving in free agency, will affect that team. But I think
Cleveland, please.
But I think Joe Burrow is that guy. I think he might be even more that guy that Patrick Mahomes is, because I still believe, I like Brady, and Brady did carry the back half of that dynasty, but the first half of that dynasty was all Coach Belichick. I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are a match made in heaven, and I'm very interested to see. We'll get into this more next week whether Andy Reid does call it a career if Kansas City does indeed host the Lombardi after Super Bowl 58. We got to move to the NFC Championship game. And Dan Campbell, love you, coach. Love your energy. Love your aggressiveness. But Dan, take the damn field goal, please. And this game would have been tied up at 28. And who knows? Maybe the Lions, go down and score. Maybe we get an overtime game. I thought the Lions completely outplayed the Niners in the first half. And again, a lot like you, I know you weren't rooting for Kansas City. I wasn't rooting for San Francisco. But I got to admit, in the second half, Brock Purdy, with his feet, made more plays than probably anybody of the four quarterbacks made with their feet over championship weekend. Brock Purdy and that San Francisco 49ers defense took apart the Lions in the second half. And it's what I've been saying about Ben Johnson, who we now know will be coming back to Detroit, is that Ben Johnson is a very good play caller in the first half of games. The Detroit Lions had a very good first half against the Rams. They struggled in the second half. They survived. They had a bad first half against Tampa. They made a little run in the second half, but let's be honest, they survived. They dominated the San Francisco 49ers in the first half, and that game should have been over. But the Lions went too much into their shell. They did not move the ball offensively in the second half. San Francisco made more plays, including the incredible catch by Brandon Ayuk off the face mask of Vador, which we will be talking about for years, especially if San Francisco goes on to win the Super Bowl. And yeah, I mean, the Lions, they made some bad coaching decisions. They were super aggressive, which they've been all year. You got to stick to your identity. But I do believe Dan Campbell, that decision to not kick the field goal could have cost the Lions a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
And that's why I phrased the question as I did on the topic bar of, did the Lions lose this game or did the 49ers win it? Because I think it's a very fair question to ask because of what you pointed out about Dan Campbell's aggressiveness and not taking the points and constantly going for it on fourth down, giving the 49ers hope and life when they shouldn't have had either of those. But think about this for a second. Kyle Shanahan was on the opposite end of a blown lead this time because he did it in the Super Bowl 4 years ago against Kansas City. He did it against New England in Super Bowl 51, 28-3. And here he is on the other side coming back from down 24-7. So I do think that's an interesting part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's something that, going back to the divisional round against Green Bay, San Francisco had never won a game throwing in the fourth quarter under Kyle Shanahan. They now have done it twice, though. I think they more beat Green Bay to answer this question. I do think the Lions sort of watched the game more than San Francisco won it. But the bottom line is, the Niners have a lot of playoff experience. And now they want revenge from the Super Bowl 4 years ago when Patrick Mahomes came in. They were down 20-10 in the fourth quarter. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes throws the prayer to Tyreek Hill. And so we will see. It's going to be a very fascinating game. But for the Lions' sake, I think we all kind of thought, this year, maybe they win a playoff game. They got a break, in my opinion, from Dallas and Philadelphia, both going out early. It was those 2 playoff games. Now that Ben Johnson's coming back, even though they're going to have a harder schedule next year, Josh, you look at the Lions' schedule, and I said going into this game, and Jared Goff did play well for most of this game. I said he will play well unless it is completely in outdoor weather like Chicago or Green Bay, which next year, the Lions only have 2 outdoor games that will probably be cold. And if they get them both early, the Lions can be playing in all dome or warm weather games all season long. At Chicago and at Green Bay, are there only 2 cities that you could see a potential cold game from the Lions next year?
Yeah. So that's advantage Lions right there. I thought Brock Purdy really showed me something because I didn't know he had that type of mobility because You don't see the 49ers call designed quarterback runs for Brock Purdy the way we do for the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Not comparing Brock Purdy to Lamar Jackson, obviously, but given what Brock Purdy showed, I felt like it was a fair statement to make there.
I mean, he had over 50 rushing yards in the second half alone.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying, though. Brock Purdy showed me that he has that mobility. I always, based on what I have seen from him this season, I thought he was just like a stationary quarterback where if you get him off of his spot, he's gonna, make a mistake or something like that.
All right. Well, with that being said, we're going to move on to recent coaching hires in the National Football League because Jim Harbaugh is the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Raheem Morris has taken what we thought would have been Bill Belichick's job in Atlanta, as well as Dave Canales, so would have been out of left field there, joining the Carolina Panthers, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. And as we already mentioned, Ben Johnson has withdrawn his name out of the hat for both of the Commanders and the Seahawks. So, Josh, your thoughts on these hires?
I don't have too much to say about Dave Canales to Carolina because the Panthers are an absolute mess right now. So until David Tepper is out as the Panthers owner, I think Carolina is going to continue to be a mess. I'll be more interested to see who Atlanta hires as their offensive coordinator because I have a feeling Raheem Morris is going to call the defense for the Falcons. So I want to know who their offensive coordinator is going to be. But Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. This is what we all thought was going to happen. And I want to see what the pairing is like between him and Justin Herbert. Is he able to get Herbert to the level that we all think Justin Herbert can be at? And think about what the offensive pieces that Harbaugh has to work with. He's got Austin Eckler at running back. He's got Keenan Allen at wide receiver. He's got Mike Williams at wide receiver. He has the capability to get this Chargers team to be a legit contender. Now, obviously, in order to be a legit contender, you got to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see about that. But I'm very interested in what Harbaugh brings to the defensive side for the Chargers.
Interesting.
Think about what the Chargers have on defense. You got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. No, they traded J.C. Jackson. They got Derwin James. So they have some decent pieces on defense. Can Harbaugh lift that defense up to where we think it should be? Because we know what the offense can do for the Chargers if they have the right coach in place, which Brandon Staley was not, obviously. But
yeah, I apologize. There, folks, I had a quick interruption to go off camera there for about 30 seconds. But, Mr. Unger, I am very interested here to see what Jim Harbaugh does with the Chargers because I believe Jim Harbaugh could be the guy to lead the Los Angeles Chargers back to Providence, back to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh, I don't count him as an offensive-minded head coach, even though he is. I don't count him as a defensive head coach. He's a lot like John Harbaugh, where he's just a flat-out leader of men. He is a head football coach. He's a grinder, and his teams are going to be physical. And that's what I think the Chargers need. You mentioned the pieces they have on defense. I think they're going to move off one of Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa. I would guess more than likely Khalil Mack. They need to get younger on defense. Asante Samuel is a nice young corner. They don't really have a ton of great corners. They need to go out. They need to get a center. I assume Corey Linsley is going to retire. But outside of that, they have everything in place. Jim's defensive coordinator from Michigan is coming over to be their defensive coordinator. We will see who their offensive coordinator is going to be, as Kellen Moore is officially the new offensive coordinator of my Philadelphia Eagles. On the Carolina side, I found the Dave Canales hire certainly interesting. Dave Canales helped with your guy, Geno Smith, and his reclamation project in Seattle 2 years ago, helped out with Baker Mayfield this year. And so we'll see if he can get Bryce Young back on track. Carolina needs to go out and spend a boatload of money on free agency, whether it's weapons and offensive line. Maybe you trade a Brian Burns or a Jeremy Chin, get more draft picks. They need to invest all their resources on the offensive side of the ball.
But who's going to want to play for the Panthers with David Tepper as the owner? That's my
I don't think that's a big deal as you think. I think ownership is more of a big deal for coaches than it is players. Players don't care. Players don't have to deal with the owner. They mostly deal with the coaches. I mean, the Browns had a circus of coaches. Why? Because they were bad teams and bad coaches. Jimmy Asselman isn't necessarily a great owner. Jerry Jones isn't a great owner. It's a circus down in Dallas, but a lot of people want to play for the Cowboys. You start winning, they're going to want to play for you. That's going to be Dave Canales' job, and if he can get Bryce Young back up to speed. Atlanta is the interesting one because by all accounts, Raheem Morton's a very good leader of men, very good head coach, but he's got to get the quarterback right. And who will his offensive coordinator be to help lift that quarterback? I don't think they're going to be
exactly what I was saying while you took your break.
I don't think they're going to be in striking distance for Bo Nix. I don't think they're going to be in striking distance for, Michael Penix. Or some of these other quarterbacks. Like I've been saying,
I think they might be in position to get Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner from
LSU.
LSU.
I'm hearing a lot of mixes. Jaden Daniels could go number 3 to New England, or he could go in the middle of the first round. There's a lot of inconsistencies after Caleb Williams and Drake May. For Atlanta, I keep saying I think their best option is to call Chicago and ask for Justin Fields. Like, I think that your best option to go out and get a quarterback, you don't have to pay Fields for another year or two. And if Fields isn't good next year, you're going to be right at the top of the draft. And, maybe you fire Raheem Morris and maybe Belichick's available then. Who knows? But Atlanta's got pieces. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, a very good and underrated offensive line. Jesse Bates is still there. Calais Campbell is still there. You just need the quarterback. And by the way, in that division, again, who knows how Dave Canales is going to work in Carolina. I suggest, or I should say, I forecast Baker Mayfield will have a slight regression since he left Tampa Bay. New Orleans is a mess. I don't think Derek Carr and Dennis Allen are going to last the year next year. So there's an opportunity there for Atlanta to win quick if they get everything in place.
I agree with you. But before we finish off this topic, I want to talk about this. Not your Eagles and not my Browns. What the heck are the Pittsburgh Steelers doing? Why
hiring Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. Now, this is a very interesting hire. Because I'll say this. The one thing we know that Arthur Smith does do well is he may not know how to use all his running backs, but he uses a lot of running backs. And he uses a lot of tight ends. And the one thing the Steelers have, very good tight end, Pat Freiermuth, a good offensive line, 2 very good backs, and who knows, maybe they even move on from Najee Harris. As a play caller in Tennessee, Arthur Smith got Ryan Tannehill his best year. The question for the Steelers is going to be, can Arthur Smith get the best out of Kenny Pickett? My guess is no. And the Steelers are against such a defensive, rigid culture, as I've said multiple times. So they're going to stick with Kenny Pickett as long as they can, even though they shouldn't. But that's the bottom line there. This hire is all about Kenny Pickett because the Steelers are the 4th best quarterback in their division. And we all know you can't win that way.
See, my thing is, what we saw from Arthur Smith in Atlanta, he didn't use the likes of Bijan Robinson. He didn't use Drake London. He barely used Kyle Pitts. At times, I need to put an APB out for Kyle Pitts. Coming to Pittsburgh, He has Jalen Warren. He has Najee Harris, like you mentioned. He has Pat Fryermuth. But don't forget about Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Like, that's where I'm most confused because Deontay Johnson and George Pickens have shown that they can be really good to great wide receivers.
I would say good. I always thought both of them were very overrated. And I know you're a Browns fan. Again, I'm a Browns observer. I'm not saying that as somebody from Cleveland. I'm saying that objectively. I think Deontay
As am
Johnson.
I.
I think Deontay Johnson's more of a free in a really good Super Bowl caliber offense. I think George Pickens is more of a 2 in a really good Super Bowl caliber offense. For Pittsburgh, they're 1 and 2. So I think Arthur Smith, again, yes, he didn't use them properly, but he does use a lot of running backs, which Pittsburgh has. He does use a lot of tight ends, which Pittsburgh has. He had a very good offensive line in Atlanta. He had a good offensive line in Tennessee when he was there. As a play caller, which is different than a head coach.
Right, I understand that.
How many times have we seen head coaches, be better OCs or better DCs than head coaches? It happens. I don't think it's a great hire, but I think it could have certainly done worse, is all I'm saying. We'll see. I think it's an upgrade from what they had.
Yeah. Just to touch on the Browns super quick. I don't know all the details of why Alex Van Pelt was let go, but they bring in Ken Dorsey. But I'm like, what's the point of having an offensive coordinator if your freaking head coach is the one calling the plays? Because we know Stefanski is the one calling the plays. So I'm like,
can I answer that? Because
go ahead.
There's a misnarrative out there that that's all offensive coordinators do is call plays. And that is completely wrong. There's a reason why guys like Kevin O'Connell, Zach Taylor, of course, now the Vikings and Bengals head coaches in the McVay tree, never called plays under McVay. They got head coaching jobs. Why Matt LaFleur, who never called plays before, got a head coaching job, et cetera, et cetera. Nick Sirianni, by the way, did not call plays in Indianapolis, got a head coaching job. A coordinator's job is not just to call plays. But a coordinator, and actually, I think Sirianni has spoken about this, Stefanski has spoken about this. The coordinators in practice are actually the ones that do the coaching. When you are a coordinator, you are coaching the offense in practice. The OC, the QB coach, the tight ends coach, etc. All those coaches are working together. And so while the head coach, if he's the play caller, is calling the plays in game, during practice, he's mostly doing the walk around and organizational type things where the coaches are the ones running the drills, working with the players, running the meetings. So that's what Dorsey will do. Now, my concern is Josh Allen, as we both said, regressed under Ken Dorsey. Dorsey did call the plays. I don't believe Dorsey is going to be calling the plays. It sounds like Stefanski is still going to be calling the plays. We'll see. Obviously, Dorsey played for the Browns. He knows the team, knows the area. And so we'll see. I just thought it was an interesting hire.
And let's just talk about it. What did you think of the Eagles hiring Kellen Moore?
Oh, I absolutely love it. Not only Kellen Moore, but Vic Fangio as well. Two experienced play callers. Fangio, obviously, head coach in Denver. I thought Kellen Moore last year was going to become the Chargers interim head coach before Staley got fired, which I thought was going to happen way earlier in the season. I don't think Kellen Moore, I think he got a lot of blame last year for an offense that was falling apart. They had a lot of injuries. Austin Eckler missed a lot of time. Mike Williams was out. Keenan Allen was out. Their offense looked like a complete show of themselves. He runs a lot more motion. He runs a lot more under center. I think it's going to be a different look. I think he's a very good play caller. I think the fact that he knows the Cowboys, he knows the Giants, he knows the Commanders will help Philly. I think Vic Fangio, bringing an experienced guy just to run that side of the ball, let him be the head coach of the defense, the way your Browns and Jim Schwartz is the head coach of the defense over there, is the right move. And I'm hoping for that sake that both moves work out. And I do objectively like both hires.
I feel like this adds to the Dallas-Philadelphia rivalry a little bit. Not that it needs any more fuel to the fire, obviously, but we know the history. Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator in Dallas for a while, and then Mike McCarthy said, no, I'm taking over offensive play calling, and Kellen Moore was pushed out the door, and now he's with the Cowboys' biggest rival in the Eagles. I do think this adds to the rivalry between the two teams. Do you agree with that?
Like 1%.
Oh, I didn't
Because
mean it added to the rivalry in like a huge way. No.
in a way it does. I think it adds more from the Dallas side than the Philly side. Because Philly fans, we're not thinking, oh, we got the former Cowboys OC. We're thinking we got Kellen Moore. Dallas fans are thinking, oh, we don't need Kellen Moore anyways. He was, we weren't as good without him. So from the Dallas perspective, I think it adds more than the Philly perspective.
Fair enough.
Okay, let's go to the NBA All-Star starters. They were named in both the East and the West. Now, important note this year, Josh. We have not dove into this, and we're going to dive into a lot more NBA now the football season is almost over. But the NBA has changed the All-Star format once again. It has gone back to the old East versus West style, which I'll be honest, I don't like. I don't like All-Star Weekend to begin with. I'm just going to say it up front. Never have, never will. I think it's a gimmick. I think that the dunk contest has been completely watered down. I think it's a show
I
of
agree
itself.
with. Let me just stop you right there. Not because I disagree, but because I fully agree. The dunk contest for a while, like in the early 2000s, was one of those things that you really looked forward to. Like, I remember when JaVale McGee of the Washington Wizards did the dunk with the two basketballs and the two hoops. You know what I'm talking about? Or you had
Yeah,
Dwight Howard with the Superman cape in New
that was
Orleans.
the last good dunk contest that I remember. That one with Aaron Gordon, I always thought was overrated as hell.
Oh, come on!
I always
That
thought it
was
no,
amazing!
it was only overrated because you haven't seen a good dunk contest in 10 years. That's why people liked it. It was nothing close to the old school dunk contest.
Oh, I love. I think you might be stuck in the old school too much, but in terms of your overall statement about the dunk contest, yes, I agree.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of All Star Weekend, but nonetheless, your thoughts. I'm going to ask a real quick question before we get into the All Star starter name. Do you like the fact they have gone back to the old East versus West, not the target score for Kobe Bryant, obviously?
It's okay. From what I heard, I don't think East versus West is going to be the format moving forward. It sounds like they might try something different, like maybe U.S. versus World or something. I've heard rumors
Which
about
I
that.
mean, theoretically, they could do now that there's so many international great players we've talked about. Um, yeah, I don't know, but naming for the Eastern Conference, obviously Captain Giannis, he was going to win it in the East no matter what. It's almost a lock, just like LeBron from the West. Joel Embiid representing the big men in the East. Your guy Jason Tatum, the other forward, and then the two guards, Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton.
The voters got it right with 4 out of the 5. I'm fine with Giannis. Joel Embiid makes sense. Tatum, yes. Tyrese Halliburton has been playing fantastic for the Pacers, so for sure. But no, not Damian Lillard. How about Donovan Mitchell? Or, I don't know, Jalen Brunson? I mean, either of them should have gotten it over Damian Lillard.
Well,
But
it's a fan vote. It's a popularity contest. I never thought fans should vote for All Star Weekend. I never thought the fans should be involved. It's going to sway the vote because fans in the NBA and the NFL is starting to become this, but it's really been a thing in the NBA for a decade. The NBA, because obviously we know the superstars run this league, as I've been saying for years. Because of that, fans are more fans of players than they are of teams. And so, because of that, and we have, your LeBrons, your Lucas, your Stephs, your Giannis's, your Embiid, your Durant's, guys that are going to be in the All-Star game every year regardless. I mean, LeBron could break his leg game one and still be voted captain of the All-Star game in the West. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, sure. I get what you're saying overall about the All-Star game because it is more of an exhibition, but you know what? It's for the fans. Like we get, personally, I get enjoyment out of watching it. Like like Steph and LeBron teaming together. That's fun. I like that.
I mean, I did. I mean, I like it to a certain extent, but when they clearly stop trying, it's when it gets a little flamboyant to me.
And I understand that.
I mean, it's fun to watch, but it really, back in the day, here I go again with my back in the day references. They used to play hard for 4 quarters. It used to be, 120 to 100 or whatever. Now it's like 250 to 220.
Yeah, I get that. Before we move off of this All-Star topic, we are finally getting a WNBA NBA crossover. It is official. NBA All-Star Saturday night. Dang, I just had a voice crack there. Let me try that again. Who is the better shooter? Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty or Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors?
So is this replacing the skills challenge, or are they just adding this on?
I'm not sure about all that, but I know it's happening on All-Star Saturday night.
So it sounds like Steph is going to shoot from the men's 3-point line and use men's basketballs. Now, you are a avid women's college basketball fan. You have written an article that's going to go soon on Voltage Live about women's college basketball. So for somebody like myself that doesn't watch a ton of women's college basketball, and for the audience out there, just sort of explain what this means and sort of the difference between the women's balls and then the women's 3-point line, obviously.
So the women's 3-point line is a little bit closer than the men's, but personally, I love women's college basketball and just the WNBA in general. You get great matchups almost all the time. And I've been asking for the WNBA to be injected into the NBA All-Star Weekend in some capacity. Originally, I wanted to be like some type of mixed All-Star game, but the logistics of that would just be an absolute nightmare. Because what if they switch and you end up with a man guarding a woman or a woman guarding a man? I don't want to get into that whole political shindig and whatnot, but it just wouldn't work. But for this to be happening, I love it. It brings attention to the WNBA. Fans get to see the greatness of Sabrina Ionescu because she is a shooter.
Compare her in NBA terms. Is she the Steph Curry of the NBA?
I would say so, yeah. That's why fans are clamoring for her to go against Steph in this 3-point shootout. It'll be interesting to see, do they keep it like a regular 3-point shootout where they have the racks at the different points around the 3-point line, or are they going to do some sort of variation? Is it going to be like a 1-round thing, or is it going to be like 2 or 3 rounds? I'm very curious about all of that.
Well, we have got to get to LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers on Thursday night. They battle Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics.
Yes. So the Celtics already took round 1 against LeBron and the Lakers back on, I think it was on Christmas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was. That game was on Christmas. It was in LA. The game was close, I believe, throughout the first half. Boston pulled away in the second half. Again, you know my feelings on regular season basketball, though I do think this is a big game. Obviously, Lakers are struggling right now. We're about a week away from the trade deadline. It does seem like every year LeBron's teams, whether it's Cleveland or LA or even Miami, uh, for a few years there, hover around the 500 mark of the trade deadline, redo their entire team, and make a run to the finals. I don't know if the Lakers can do that this year. It's weird, right? Because they're about the same team, and Boston has obviously been the best team in the East, if not the entire NBA, all regular season long. We'll see how they would do in a 7-game series, and what we presume against will be Milwaukee. But Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, these Celtics, led by Joe Mazzulla, have been a dominating force, pretty much, I mentioned, from the get-go this season. But the Lakers-Celtics rivalry, it used to mean something, obviously, way back in the day, the Kobe Bryant days. It really hasn't felt that special to me in at least a decade. But, it's always fun to see them match up.
Yeah, I agree. Lakers Celtics doesn't quite have the same meaning as it did back in the early 2000s when you had them meet in the 2008 NBA Finals, and then 2 years later in the 2010 NBA Finals, that great Game 7.
Oh, incredible. Remember Ron Artest, or Meta World Peace at the time, hitting that three-pointer. The Lakers had to come down 3-2 in that series. It looked like Boston was going to beat him again, and Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, would not let that happen. Again, the Lakers this year are a weird team. We both thought they could have a chance to make a run at the finals this year. I think we both picked them to go to the finals and lose to Milwaukee. We both had Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals against Milwaukee. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I think they got to make a move at the deadline, though. Again, I don't know what that move will do. They don't have a ton of pieces. And it's been really the same story for the Lakers that it has been for the last 5 years. LeBron is great. Anthony Davis is not reliable. He's hit or miss. You don't know what you're going to get from him. And everybody else on the team is like, some nights they want to play and some nights they don't.
Yeah. Even though it doesn't have the same meaning, it's still the Lakers and the Celtics, so you still want to tune in. The Celtics have only lost twice on their home floor this season, which is pretty incredible. In the grand scheme of things, I get to you, it might not be that big of an achievement.
No, I mean that matters. That I always said, I think the one thing is, if you're a dominant home team, usually you do very well in the postseason.
Okay, that's fair. And their 2 home losses are to championship contenders in the Nuggets and the LA Clippers. It's not like,
and Denver was the run recently. And when we dive into more NBA here, February and March, Clippers are in shock. They looked like early in the year they were falling off a cliff.
Yeah, they did. I can't believe how much James Harden has bought in on the defensive end.
James Harden, Russell Westbrook, me and you are going to get into some takes about Russell Westbrook. I think he's the most overrated and worst basketball player currently in the NBA.
Oh, good God. But anyway.
I've been saying it for years.
You and your crazy takes. But anyway.
I don't have crazy takes. I spit facts. Has Russell Westbrook ever made a conference finals without Kevin Durant? No. Has Russell Westbrook ever made in the NBA finals? No. He won the MVP because he won a triple-double. Who gives a rip? Damian Lillard knocked him out in 5 games.
Anyway, getting back to Lakers Celtics. For me, it's always fun to see LeBron go against Jason Tatum. I know your thoughts on Jason Tatum, and we're never going to agree there, but because we
can't agree if Jason Tatum becomes that guy this postseason. If he does not make the finals this year, to me, it's a failure. You're the best team. You're better than Milwaukee right now. Now, I think Milwaukee overall is the better team. They just fired their coach. They're bringing in Doc Rivers. I mean, it just shows in the NBA coaching doesn't matter. Players essentially run the league. I do think coaching matters somewhat when you get into late game situations in the postseason, but it doesn't matter nearly as much as it does in football. So I'm very interested. Right now, I don't have Jason Tatum as a top 10 player, and I can barely get him to snip my top 15. Like Nikola Jokic last year, can Jason Tatum prove me wrong this postseason?
We shall see. But do I think this is an NBA Finals preview? No, I don't. But it's still Lakers Celtics. So it usually turns into a pretty good game when these two teams meet up. And it's always battle for who has the most championships in the NBA because they both have 17 and they're in search of banner 18.
Okay, Josh. Well, this topic sort of relates with the NBA a little bit because this is our first college basketball topic we'll ever do on championship rings. And I do like a lot about March Madness. I dive into college basketball for 1 month out of the year, really. And that month is March. And the reason why I don't watch a ton of college basketball during the regular season is because the NBA draft has now all of a sudden turned into a college draft, into a G League draft, and an international draft to me, where your top stars in college basketball, outside of obviously Brandon Miller last year, your top stars are not from college basketball anymore. And so
Sure.
because of that, we're getting more upsets in March Madness. There's a reason why San Diego State and all those upsets happened last year, and why we had the weird national championship and the weird Final Four. I think it's going to happen again this year. Now, for you, obviously, Duke, North Carolina is a huge rivalry. We all know about it. Tell the viewers at home about Duke, about North Carolina. Are they even this year? Is one better than the other? What players should we be looking for at home?
So I haven't been paying too closely attention to these two teams, so I'd have to do a little research into some of their key players. But they're both top 15 programs in the country right now. I believe North Carolina is ranked number 3 and Duke is number 12 or something like that. But it's Duke, North Carolina. I don't feel like you have to say a lot to really get interested in this. You know the history. You know some of the big names that have come out of this rivalry. Grant Hill, J.J. Redick, Michael Jordan, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski. They just met in the Final Four a couple years ago in what turned out to be Coach K's final game. It's the best rivalry in college basketball. You want to tune in because it's going to provide you some type of iconic moment most of the time. People remember Austin Rivers' buzzer beater at North Carolina back in, I think it was the early 2000s, something like that. People try to compare the Kentucky-Louisville rivalry to this in college basketball. Duke Carolina is the best rivalry in college basketball. I would say the only two college rivalries that are better are the game between Ohio State and Michigan and the Iron Bowl, Alabama-Auburn. But those are my top 3 right there. Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama-Auburn, North Carolina, Duke. I love this rivalry. I am for sure going to tune in. I'm going to find my favorite spot on the couch, and I am going to watch from start to finish. I can't wait.
Enough said. So, let's get to the recap of the 2024 Royal Rumble as we are officially 67 days away from WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Josh, the road to WrestleMania has already taken a sharp detour when it comes to the card on the men's side of things, on the Monday Night Raw side of things. Let's start off, though, with the Women's Royal Rumble match, which featured an appearance from the TNA Knockouts champion, the return of Naomi, as well as the winner from the number 3 position, Bayley, as we assume now, will go on and face Io Sky for the WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania.
Well, you forgot something. A storm is coming. Jade Cargill made her debut.
Jade Cargill absolutely made her debut. eliminated Nia Jax. I thought she looked like a star. I thought WWE did a great job at presenting her. She eliminated Nia Jax, I mentioned. She eliminated Becky Lynch. She was in the final three. Liv Morgan returning at number 30 along with Bayley. I like the spot they did at the end of the match when Liv delivered an obliteration from the apron out to the outside, taking out Jade Cargill, and Bayley right underneath there would eliminate Liv Morgan as she had already gone over the top rope before. Bayley going 63 minutes and 3 seconds to punch her ticket to the main event of WrestleMania for her first ever one-on-one WrestleMania encounter.
I did like that they kind of teased that maybe she'll go after Rhea Ripley because of the record Bayley had in the Royal Rumble. I will say that would be a really interesting match if that were to be the case, but I agree with you. It's most likely going to be Io Sky, which would also be a fantastic match. Don't get me wrong. But I want to focus more, no disrespect to Bayley, but I want to focus more on Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair because I didn't watch the Women's Royal Rumble because I was working during it, but I went on Twitter later and I saw that spot where the two of them were just hoisting up other wrestlers and just looking at each other, and they just drop. And I'm like, yep, I want to see that match at WrestleMania. That I think that would be a great feud, and the match would be incredible. That's what I love about the Royal Rumble in general, is you get ideas of what matches you're going to see at WrestleMania based off of spots in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I will say, though, that this year there wasn't as much.
Sure.
And I did think that this year, and I've noticed a pattern. I said this on Brandon's World today. This is obviously the second year that Triple H, under his administration, if you will, has booked the Royal Rumble. And the one thing I've noticed about the new version, if you will, of the Rumble is there will be a early entrant who will be a favorite to either win or make the final five, final four, whatever you will. He really likes that long Iron Man / Iron Woman survivor. And it really is not based off surprise legend returns. I mean, we really did not get any in either Royal Rumble match. So, as I already mentioned, the TNA Knockout Champion appeared on the women's side.
Georgine Grace, yep.
Georgine Grace, Jade Cargill. But again, there wasn't that Michelle McCool or Molly Holly or name the legend that, would usually come out. It was very focused on the current roster. I thought Chelsea Green had a really great gimmick in the match where she would just keep getting hit and slammed and splashed by her partner Piper Niven. And it was really storyline based. Early on in the match, it was about Naomi's return. Then it went to the Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Bayley Damage Control beating people up. Then once they got eliminated, it really turned into Nia Jax dominating people. Becky Lynch and Jade Cargill came in. Then it was the Tiffany Stratton, Roxanne Perez from NXT to sort of end the match with Bayley surviving the whole thing. So there was a real story behind it. And now we get to see if Bayley can finish her story at WrestleMania. And then speaking of finishing the story, you know where we got to go. The American Nightmare. Cody Rhodes is a back-to-back Royal Rumble match winner. And there's an even bigger story coming out of the runner-up of the men's Royal Rumble match. But let's first talk about entrant number 15, Cody Rhodes. Survives Gunther, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre, who were in the final four. After really, I thought the men's Royal Rumble match, to be honest with you, really started off slow. It really, though, picked up once Dominic Mysterio came in, and Braun Breaker came in, and R-Truth came in, and R-Truth also came in the Women's Royal Rumble.
That was hilarious.
Which I thought was a great spot. I thought that was a great idea and a great spot. I thought Braun Breaker.
Can we just hold on one second? What the heck was Michael Cole going on about Valhalla's antler?
Oh, that was funny. Him, Corey Graves, and Pat McAfee being back. How about that? Now he's officially a part of the Monday Night Raw commentary team as well. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was just the setup for R-Truth, and they told Cole to flip out about her antlers. I don't know.
It was so weird. But let me just say this about the Royal Rumble in general. What I've kind of associated the Royal Rumble with, in my opinion, is that's when you get to meet a lot of the NXT people who could be on their way to the main roster. And we got a little bit of that with Roxanne Perez, Tiffany Stratton, and Braun Breaker. I don't want to get into all the logistics and everything of why Braun Breaker was there and not Brock Lesnar, because I just don't feel comfortable talking about all that.
Absolutely, and completely understand it. You know, again, you can read all about the reports that Braun Breaker was supposedly in the spot of Brock Lesnar, but I thought Braun Breaker looked really good.
But my overall point though was there was a lack of NXT talents. Like I thought like Trick Williams was going to be in the Royal Rumble. I thought maybe the NXT Women's Champion Lyra Valkyria was going to be there because Roxanne Perez, when she was in the Rumble last year, she was the NXT Women's Champion. I thought maybe Blair Davenport was going to be there. I thought maybe Von Wagner, Josh Briggs, maybe even Ilya Dragunov.
The one thing I'll say is it shows the depth of the current WWE roster. Obviously, Andrade came back. That was the big surprise. But this Royal Rumble, as I mentioned with the women's, was again more storyline based. Carlito and the LWO, Bobby Lashley and Karrion Kross, Jay and Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn returning at number 30, and Drew McIntyre, all of the Judgment Day. So there's only 30 spots. And this isn't 2011. They're not going to do a 40-man Royal Rumble ever again, obviously.
And I'm not suggesting that they should.
It really comes down to the roster's just deep and stacked, and there's just not enough people to put all those NXT people in there. There's really only room for 2 or 3 spots.
Sure, but like, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but that's one of the things I've gotten accustomed to over the past couple of years is a lot of NXT people being in the Rumble. But let's focus more on Cody, because obviously, after he won, he pointed to Roman's press box. But then the segment on Monday Night Raw last night was so interesting.
I agree with you. Now, I'm going to give you both of my feelings here.
Go.
Okay. I do believe the original plan, and the plan still is obviously Cody to face Roman Reigns.
Yes.
However, WWE, as I alluded to very briefly right before we started talking about this, is in a very interesting spot. So CM Punk tore his triceps in the Royal Rumble. So unfortunate for Punk, who was set to get his first main event of WrestleMania Night 1 for the World Championship against Seth Rollins. Now, Brock Lesnar was reportedly supposed to face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. At this point now, neither Gunther nor Seth Rollins have WrestleMania opponents. Seth Rollins also has a torn MCL and a damaged meniscus, and it would be a push, it sounds like, that he was going to try to push to get back to Mania to face Punk. Do they just say, Rollins, you know what? The match isn't happening this year. We love you. Go fix your knee. And do they completely change course on the World Heavyweight Championship match? Because I think that it is a possibility that Damian Priest cashes in and walks into WrestleMania the World Heavyweight Champion. There are so many options on the table right now for WWE. Drew McIntyre is an option. Sami Zayn is an option. The Cody Rhodes thing is an option. Gunther and Rollins in a title for title match is an option. Damian Priest and Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship is an option if you want to go down that route. So I don't know what they're going to do. The Punk and Lesnar thing throws a wrench in their plans. I'll let you comment on that, and then we'll get into Cody and Roman.
First of all, let me just comment on what you were saying about Seth Rollins. For me, WrestleMania doesn't feel right if Seth Rollins is not there. Like, for me, Seth Rollins is an integral part of WrestleMania. If Seth Rollins is not there, it doesn't feel like WrestleMania. That's just my opinion. But let's say you take Seth Rollins off the card. I could see them doing Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso as the main event of night one in that scenario. And then maybe you do the World Heavyweight Championship match to open Mania. I could see that scenario happening possibly.
See, I would make the argument that if the World Heavyweight Championship does not main event night, if it does not main event night one of WrestleMania, I think your main event should be Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship.
And I'd be all right with that too. I'd be all right if they want to do Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso as the main event, or Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley. Either match in that scenario would be fantastic. I really like the idea of Seth Rollins versus Gunther. I think Gunther belongs in the main event picture. He has proven that. He has elevated the Intercontinental Championship to a level where it's like you want to see him have a match because it's going to be really good with him in it. No discredit to his opponent, whether that's Kofi Kingston, The Miz, or any of the other opponents he's faced along the way. I like the idea of Drew McIntyre in the main event picture, but I would rather him face Sami Zayn in a non-title match at WrestleMania. Although we did get that match last night on Monday Night Raw, so maybe we're not going in that direction.
That's why I'm wondering if you do McIntyre, Sammy, Rollins triple threat,
which is not a bad option by any means. But personally, I would prefer to see Drew and Sammy in a singles match. If Rollins is not able to get to WrestleMania, I would do Drew versus Gunther versus Priest in a triple threat match.
That's interesting. Now, so Priest, I would assume Priest would walk in as champion.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Gunther takes the title, not by pinning Priest, by pinning Drew.
Okay.
What do you think of that idea?
It's interesting. It's one I have to sit on, but it's a little bit out there. It's different. I like it. We did
get the triple threat match last year between Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus,
which was a 5-star banger. It's probably the match of the year in WWE. I mean, Michael Cole and I believe Titus O'Neil was on the call, and Corey Graves were literally standing up. Had a reaction I've never seen from a WWE commentary team in a long, long time. Okay.
I think that triple threat match could live. My hypothetical one could live up to that. But let's get to Cody and
okay.
Roman.
So everybody thinks Cody Rhodes is going to finish his story. He has to finish the story, right? He went back-to-back Rumbles. And I tend to agree with that.
But I already know what you're going to say.
But I have a thought. And I woke up. So Saturday night after the event, and I'm a big CM Punk fan, I was a little bit salty. I wanted Punk to win the Royal Rumble because I wanted to see Cody go for the Elimination Chamber. I thought it would have been the better way to go. However, if Punk would have won the Rumble, now you're absolutely screwed. So in hindsight, they probably made the right decision. Anyway, so I woke up though Sunday morning and I said, this title reign's not over yet. There is still meat on the bone for Roman Reigns and the undisputed Universal Championship reign, I believe. So I have two thoughts with how this WrestleMania match is going to go down.
Hit me.
Thought one.
Okay.
It plays out almost the same way WrestleMania 39 ended last year. Solo distracts the ref with Heyman. It's Cody with the Samoan spike. Reigns hits the spear. All of a sudden, if you smell, hits the scene, hits Roman with a rock bottom. Cody gets the cover. Cody wins.
Okay.
After the match, Damian Priest cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase on Cody Rhodes, steals Cody Rhodes' moment, and you get Priest as the new World Heavyweight Champion to end WrestleMania 40, and you set up The Rock versus Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 41.
Or at SummerSlam.
No, you do it at WrestleMania. That match is too big for any event except WrestleMania, and you do it very similar to the way they built Rock and Cena WrestleMania 28. The Rock makes the challenge the next night on Raw. Roman accepts. Boom, we're off. We're doing WrestleMania 28 all over again.
Okay.
The other thought is, and obviously there's the thought of, Cody wins clean and, Rock doesn't come out and Priest doesn't cash in and Cody just goes over. But my other thought is, what if it happens again? What if Cody loses again? And then he has to climb the mountain again. And then the next year, WrestleMania 41, he has to go for the Royal Rumble. The stipulation is, in order to get Roman Reigns again, he has to win the Royal Rumble from the number 1 position. And at number 30, CM Punk enters the Rumble, eliminates Cody, wins the Rumble, gets to finish his story. And Cody then would have to go to the Elimination Chamber by force somehow, like he did what Edge does in 2009 to Kofi Kingston, takes somebody out, has a little bit of an attitude, is so obsessed the way that Shawn Michaels was when he had to face The Undertaker in 2010.
Or like Kofi Kingston was when he faced Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35.
Like, was so obsessed to get back at Roman. That's how you get Cody and Roman at WrestleMania 41 if you wanted to go that route. There's so many different routes. I think WWE, they love to end their big WrestleManias, and obviously this WrestleMania 40 is huge with the big baby face going over, but there's a real possibility, I think, Roman could retain, and I would not be against it.
Here's something interesting. They've been planting the seeds the past couple weeks that the bloodline is going to break down, right? And it looks like Solo Sikoa is going to be the one that kind of kicks that whole thing off, right? They've kind of been planting those seeds a little bit. What if it's Solo that instead of helping Roman, what if it's Solo that costs Roman the championship at WrestleMania and you move into that feud? What do you think about that?
My thing is, this championship reign is so historic, as I've talked about, for weeks on this show.
Right.
Does Roman Reigns, excuse me, as I just dropped my water bottle, does Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa feel like a major feud coming off a historic championship reign? I would argue Solo Sikoa is great, but it's not that. I think Roman Reigns needs a historic, a Rock-like feud to go in after his championship reign is over. Like, I don't think Roman can just show up on the next SmackDown when his title reign's over. I think Roman needs to go away for like 6 months. That's why I keep saying you can build the Rock match up for a year and you don't see Roman for 6 months. Roman can come back as a different character. Like, the whole tribal cheap character is about the championship. It's why I keep saying the whole Cody character of finish the story. Cody's whole character and gimmick, in my opinion, is finish the story. Once he wins the title, there's no chase. There's no story. And that's my concern.
And that's a fair concern. And I hear what you're saying about Solo Sikoa. But I think if they can build Sikoa up enough, like give him, he beat Cena at Crown Jewel. Like, let's see what they do with him at WrestleMania. Do they give him some type of WrestleMania feud or match?
I
Something.
don't see it. I think he's just going to be in Jimmy's corner against Jay and in Roman's corner against Cody.
Fair enough. But either way, I do think that if they can really build up this bloodline story, not specifically the Roman Sikoa angle that they've been like planting the seeds for, as I said.
I think it would be better if you do that while Roman still has the title. I think the title would make it more just because it's the title. And I know people, there's a lot of people like yourself that tend to like the non-title feuds more. I get it. I'm always the person that just believes anytime the title's on the line, it means freaking more.
And I hear that. I totally hear your argument on that. I really do. I just feel like non-title feuds, you get a lot more personal promos, and I feel
absolutely. I mean, it depends on the feud. But
sure.
I guess what I'm saying is, if I had the option of Roman and Solo with the title or Roman and Solo without the title, I'm choosing with the title 1,000% of the time. Specifically because without the title, there is no tribal chief. And the whole point is Solo is trying to become the heir apparent to the tribal chief. Well, the way to do that is you beat the tribal chief for the championship.
Yeah. And I hear you.
That's why I still think like that feud could happen this coming year if Roman retains. Roman and Randy Orton still need to go one-on-one for the undisputed title. I don't care what anybody says. That feud needs to happen. It needs to be for the title. I think Roman Reigns and AJ Styles needs to happen again. I think Roman and LVIII needs to happen again. Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker needs to happen. Like, I can get Roman to next year's wrestling, and it's what I've been arguing with everybody, not just you, with every wrestling fan for the last, 48 hours or so. To me, Roman's title reign, there is still more meat on the bone. And what Seth Rollins said on Raw last night is true. But what Michael Cole said during the Royal Rumble is also true. He said that, everybody complains, Roman Reigns doesn't defend the championship, yada, yada, yada. He's not around every week. Well, guess what? Beat him. Because that's how you're going to stop Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns does defend the championship because he's contractually obligated to defend the championship. Oh, he won by cheating. Guess what? Every freaking heel in the damn wrestling business since the beginning of time has won by cheating. What have they not?
Yeah. But it's just become such a common thing for Roman's matches where there's going to be a ref spot or the bloodline's going to interfere, and you're just like, okay, I'm sick and tired of this.
Now, I will say the bloodline did interfere in the Royal Rumble match, which I thought, was a decent match. I thought LA Knight had a good performance. I thought Randy and AJ, I thought it was a very good match. I thought the Rumble was a good show overall. I did not think it was one of the best shows ever, which I thought it had the potential to be, but I thought it was a very good show. What I will say, though, back to the championship reign real quick, is, Solo Sikoa did interfere in the match, but Roman ended up pinning AJ Styles on his own, and that match continued for a while afterward. So
I do find it interesting that Roman pinned AJ Styles.
I like that because I think it protects LA Knight. And by the way, I think that they could plant, again, Roman and AJ seeds for down the line.
I get that it's most likely going to be LA Knight against Logan Paul for the U.S. Championship at WrestleMania, but I want to see a singles feud between LA Knight and AJ Styles at WrestleMania. I think that match would be fantastic.
I think that's a match you get at Elimination Chamber down there. Specifically now, Rollins isn't going to be on the show. Punk, Gunther, because he has visa issues, cannot leave the United States. Brock Lesnar is not going to be on the show. There's a lot of star power missing from that show. I think that match could get squeezed in at Elimination Chamber.
I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. to watch the Elimination Chamber. Thank you.
Watch it on Peacock at 9 a.m. when you wake up, like I will be doing. I cannot wait for that show down in Australia. By the way, real quick, we didn't get a chance to talk about this match, but I thought that was a sweet spot at the end of the Logan Paul Kevin Owens match when Kevin Owens hit him with the brass knucks and the referee saw it when he was about to hit 3. I thought it was different, and I thought it fits Logan Paul's character, the way Logan Paul retained the championship, and I thought it was a very good match, considering from what I read today that Kevin Owens wrestled with a damn broken foot.
Yes, I love Kevin Owens. Logan Paul's. I love that finally. It took so long, but finally Logan Paul has bought into being an asshole, and he's being an asshole in a lot of his recent feuds and matches. But much like the Roman Reigns Seth Rollins match, I think it was on last year's Royal Rumble.
It was the 2022 Rumble.
Yeah, okay. I hated that match ended with a no contest or whatever. And I hated... Huh?
Well, no, it was a disqualification. Rollins won by disqualification.
Oh, yeah. And I hated that this match ended in a disqualification because of the brass knucks. It's a premium live event. Why are you ending your matches with a disqualification? That's stupid.
I disagree. I think it fits Logan Paul's character, and I think it sets up a rematch down the line.
But it was Kevin Owens that got caught, not Logan Paul.
Yes, but Kevin Owens had the championship won, and he could say that if it wasn't for his entourage coming down there, that's the reason why the brass knucks were in there in the first place. That's how storytelling works.
Yep, I get it.
So with that being said, we have to go ahead. We have to wrap it up for tonight. That was this week's edition of Championship Rings. Thank you guys so much for listening. Brandon Lewis, Josh Ungar. Josh, as always, it was a blast. Next week, you know what week it is. It is Super Bowl week here on Championship Rings. Chiefs, Niners. Will Taylor Swift be able to make it in Japan in time? That's the most important question when it comes to this Super Bowl. Not who's going to win the game. How many times will Taylor Swift show up on camera? And will she look 22 while she's doing it?
And if the Chiefs win, will Travis Kelce propose to her on the field?
Oh, well, you know what? I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Thank you, Mr. Unger. I'm excited.
Welcome.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good broadcast. Can't wait to hear Jim and Tony.
You're not going to watch SpongeBob and Patrick?
Hey, listen, you know what I will say? I watched the Nickelodeon broadcast when they first debuted a couple years ago. It was not as bad as people think. It was not terrible. Don't diss something until you try it.
I wonder if Plankton's going to try and steal the Chiefs playbook.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that'll do it for this championship break. Thank you guys so much. As always, we're in collaboration with the one, the only, Voltage Live, VoltageLive.com. Josh Unger from Unger to the Max. Brandon Lewis from Brandon's World. We debate the hottest topics in sports every Tuesday night. Follow us on Twitter at Rings Champion, Instagram, Rings Champion, Facebook, Rings Champion 216, YouTube, Rings Champion 216. We will see you next Tuesday. And Mr. Unger, you have the final words.
We will see you next Tuesday. A salute to you.